It's Monday, July 29th, and I'm your host, Sarah Beal. On today's show, we check in with what is happening at the Barnstable Adult Community Center with Assistant Director Donna Burns, and we check in with Planning and Development Director Elizabeth Jenkins. But first, let's start with some news you can use. During Tuesday's weather event, one of the rescue boards at Covell's Beach blew away. It was recovered in Chilmark on Martha's Vineyard by United States Coast Guard Station Menemsha. The board was retrieved on Friday morning by Harbor Master Division Supervisor Derek Lawson and Marina Maintenance Worker Eric Schufelt. The board was returned via Harbor Master boat on Friday to Covell's Beach. With last week's storm behind us, we want to remind you to take a moment and sign up for Code Red, the town of Barnstable's reverse 911 system. When we received notice about a tornado warning Tuesday morning, the Barnstable Police Department activated the town's reverse 911 system. Make sure you are on our list by clicking the Code Red link at www.townofbarnstable.us. Code Red is an emergency notification service by which town officials can notify Barnstable residents and businesses by telephone, cell phone, text message, or email about time-sensitive emergency situations or important community alerts. The system is capable of sending messages only to specific neighborhoods or the entire town, and only authorized officials are allowed access to use the system. Be sure to take a moment to learn more about this important notification system. Check on your neighbors and save the date for a very important workshop. We have updates from the Barnstable Adult Community Center with Assistant Director Donna Marie Burns.
It's really hot out there, and with me today, Donna Marie Burns from the Barnstable Adult Community Center with a message. Let's check on your elderly neighbors. It's very hot out there.
It is extremely hot. I keep reminding people that we'll be complaining about the cold soon enough, but truly this is epic heat and very dangerous, particularly for older adults. And we are reminding people, hydrate, really try to drink as much water as you can manage. And also, if you have an air conditioner, don't use it. Do use it, please. This is not a time to be worrying like so many older adults do about, their bills. The energy saving machines today really do not put a huge load on your bill. So please use those air conditioners. And I would encourage everyone that has an older adult in their neighborhood, please check in on them, especially if you have not seen them for a while. Knock on the door, make sure they're okay. If we can assist you with anything, please call us at the Barnstable Adult Community Center. That is what we're here for, and we will certainly do all that we can to assist anyone that's having any difficulties with the heat.
Fantastic. And the Barnstable Adult Community Center, we're still getting used to that rebranding. So give us an update. What's going on?
Well, it's been a very exciting couple of years, actually, because this was actually a project that we started a few years back. There is a movement across the country and actually across the world to get away from ageist, taglines for people. We felt that people that are experts in aging services, really there's so much data to support that it belittles, it marginalizes older people. So there really is a move away from seniors and this little box that people long held, that when you get older, you lose your vitality, you lose your value to society, and it's just bleak and terrible. We know at our center that is not the case. We have folks in their 40s who come in, right up to the oldest person at 106 who is actively participating at our center. We're inspired every day by the capacity that people have to age well, especially now. There's so much more awareness as far as what you can do for yourself, staying healthy, staying active. Number one determinant of a healthy aging outcome for you is to remain socially engaged. People need people, and you need to be building those social network. That's what we're here for, to provide that. But it's been very exciting going back to our our needs assessment when we asked our Barnstable community, what do you need? What do you see as the next 10 to 20 years for aging services in our town? And we had a wonderful, wonderful outpouring from the community. We partnered with UMass Boston Gerontology McCormick Center, one of the foremost experts of this type of data retrieval in the country. And it brought us to this day. We are now, our department is called the Barnstable Council on Aging, which is more typical of what they're called in our state. But our building is the Barnstable Adult Community Center. And we knew that if people are going to age the best way they can, they need to start getting active at 50, at 60. And their idea of a senior center was a nursing home. Paula, we would have people come in and ask us how many beds we had. And you've been to our center.
Yeah, there's no beds there. There's a couple of dancing floors,
Yes.
some yoga mats, some
Ukulele
players, which really literally brings us to the tag of what's happening now is thriving in our community. You are now a designated age-friendly community through the Commonwealth and AARP. So that is, one of those. You worked very hard. The community's worked hard to get that designation, and being able to thrive as you age is one of those, I guess, pieces that people really don't understand. They think that, well, I'm going to retire and I might have some time for gardening, but my parents, well into their 80s and 90s now, are still busy.
And isn't that wonderful? What a wonderful example for you. And for most people, unless they have an underlying health issue, that actually is something that's attainable to the level that they are able to meet. And that is what we want for them. You mentioned Thrive. Our new motto is Thrive with us, because we really feel that it should be aspirational for people. It's not a time in your life, as it has been portrayed for so long. It's sort of a joke. You just, mold in a rocking chair. That's not what we see. We see active, engaged people who are looking for opportunities to be, to have friends, to be fit, to travel if that's their thing, and that's what we're here for.
Right, and a lot of the classes and workshops that you have at the center obviously deal with, some of those hobbies to keep you young, or new things that may interest you. There's evening classes now that revolve around people's schedules, but you've got one workshop coming up that's really, really important, and that is folks dealing with substance abuse within their family. Talk a little bit about this workshop or presentation that's going to happen.
Well, we're very excited about this. I don't think it's actually forget Cape Cod, in the country. I think everyone has an awareness now that addiction is a priority health crisis in this country. And I don't know too many families that haven't been touched by a family member or a friend struggling with addiction, which can take many different forms. And especially for older adults, I think younger people, they are more comfortable reaching out to a support group or talking to other people about what's going on. But there's always been a shame thing for older folks, whether it's their children or their spouse, or, as I said, a friend of the family, to talk about something like that. And it's really important, because addiction just doesn't impact the person who is dealing with the addiction. It's the family, it's the friends, it's the children. And we see here on the Cape, there are many grandchildren who are being raised by their grandparents. And very often that is because their parents are dealing with some form of addiction. So Claudia Borden, our wonderful outreach coordinator, has put together a class or
Symposium.
A symposium, thank you. That's
presentation.
even better. On August 15th at the Barnstable Adult Community Center from 3 to 5, Claudia has arranged for experts from Gosnell, from Duffy Health, and from the Mashpee Substance Abuse Task Force to to come and make a presentation on the status of what addiction looks like on the Cape, the different types, the effects on the family. There will also be an opportunity, because we understand this is a sensitive subject, that folks, if they have questions, will have cards that they can anonymously write their question down, and we'll just mix them up and hand them to the experts. There will be no way of anyone knowing who asked that question. So if you need to know something but you're a little shy or reluctant to feel as if you're disclosing something, this is a great opportunity. And I hope that if there are folks at home who are concerned, maybe they want to know, should they be worried, or what they can do to help, please join us. I think it will be well worth your while.
Okay. And the date was the
August 15th
and the
from
time?
3 to 5.
From 3 to 5. They can call the Senior Center for more
Yeah,
information?
please do. It's 508-862-4750. And you can just leave your first name. If you don't want to leave your first name or last name, that's fine. But I do encourage you to come. It's free, of course. And if you have any concerns or need information, we do hope you'll join us.
Right. And you'll make all those contacts as well. So if you
Absolutely.
can't ask questions, or you're not really sure, what you might do there, at least go and learn about the agencies and the people that could help you if you need that help.
Just listen. No one's compelled to ask a question. No one's going to call on you in the audience. If you just want to come and listen, it's fine too.
Great. And then one of the other things, we don't want to say the word fall, but we will.
I know.
It'll come sooner rather than later. The relief from the heat comes with it. But then comes another thing that seniors have to worry about these days, which is fuel and getting their homes warm in the winter. And the Barnstable Adult Community Center really is this hub of where to get help. So talk a little bit about the fuel assistance program and why this time of year is important when we're not even thinking about heat.
Well, I will tell you, if you are someone who has received fuel assistance in the past, you actually should keep an eye out in your mail. Now, I know all of us get a lot of junk mail. I know I do. I have a tendency, just if I don't know who it's from, to tear it up. Pay attention, because you will be receiving your renewal application. So don't throw that away. If you need some help filling it out or have any questions, you can certainly call us. If you are someone who is struggling, it's expensive, depending on the type of fuel that you use to heat your home. I will tell you that the fuel assistance does not require it be gas or propane or whatever. This covers all costs for that. And actually, if it's included in your rent, the fuel assistance will give you some relief with one of your monthly rent, one or two, depending on what you qualify for. And I will tell you, last year, the income for one, for a qualifier, this is an income qualified program. For one person, if you made less than $35,510 for one person, or $46,437 for a household of two, you would qualify for assistance. So there are many, many people out there that will qualify. And this is a lifesaver for a lot of people. And I would encourage you, if you have any questions, to call our outreach department, 508-862-4754, and we can answer any questions, get you applications, help you with applications. And there's another one in August. Nobody likes to pay real estate taxes, but it's just a fact of life. There is assistance, however, here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. This is another income qualified program. We have not received what the levels are for this year. However, I would say that it's definitely worth looking into. It's a beautiful place to live, our wonderful Cape Cod, but it's expensive. And when you're on a fixed income, anything that you are able to get that will help you, I certainly encourage you to try.
Right. Being able to save some money on
Certainly.
some of those monthly things, especially fuel, because you don't know how the winter's going to go.
Right.
Being already signed up for it is the actual goal here is
Exactly.
not to wait until you can't pay for one of your bills. You
Right.
want to do that way ahead of time. And the same thing with your real estate bills. Those I know Barnstable's has just gone out for 2019 and 2020. So I think August 1st is the first bill due. So there's lots of others that are coming
Absolutely.
in after that. So excellent. Any last updates?
Yes, as you know, we have a day program at the Barnstable Adult Community Center. I'm very proud to say it's been over 20 years. We were one of the first programs. This is a social day program, Monday through Friday, 9 to 3. It's very affordable for Barnstable residents. We have transportation for folks. If you're a senior who is at home alone and lonely, you're not able, perhaps you're a caregiver and you have, mom, dad, or a family member who can no longer safely stay home alone. This is a low-cost, high-quality, structured program that residents of Barnstable are so lucky to have available, and we do have openings.
Okay.
So I would encourage anyone, a caregiver or someone that's home alone and they're lonely and they'd love to come and be active all day. We have entertainment, we have games, it's wonderful. Pets that come in to see us. It's a great program. And I would encourage you to call us. The number for that program is you can call Stacy or myself, Donna. It's 508-862-4765. So if you're feeling overwhelmed or really lonely, give us a call.
Come thrive with us.
Come thrive with us, please.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Donna.
You're very welcome. Pleasure to be here.
Coastal resiliency and how municipalities adapt and mitigate the threats are some of the components of the MVP process. Elizabeth Jenkins, Director of Planning and Development, has an update to the town status and highlights some of the priorities in the MVP report.
Lots of planning out there for the MVP program. The report has been issued, and with me today, Director of Planning and Development, Elizabeth Jenkins. A lot of work in getting this designation. Congratulations for getting that report out there and coordinating all of the stakeholders that really needed to be involved in this process. So give us an update.
Great. So Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program, just a very quick recap. I know we've talked about it a few times, was a state program to engage communities around climate resilience planning. So, particularly in Barnstable, focused on issues of coastal resiliency, but really anything relative to natural hazard planning. So we contracted with the Cape Cod Commission, who has been a great partner with us in all sorts of resiliency planning in the past and hopefully in the future to conduct a large one-day community workshop to really look at what are our strengths, what are our challenges, and what actions should we be pursuing as a community to move forward to make ourselves more resilient. So out of that, the report that you alluded to came sort of a consensus document, again, that sort of summed all of that discussion and analysis up. We presented it at a listening session, and it's up on our website. We certainly always open to sort of more community input or comments about it. But once we submit to the state, which we have to do by the end of the month, by June 30th, then we get that official MVP designation. So Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness designation, we become a designated MVP community, and it makes us eligible for funding opportunities to support the priorities and the actions that were identified in that plan through that process. So again, as part of sort of Massachusetts' focus on community-based resilience planning.
Right. So recently in the Cape Cod Times, there was an article that had said that there was well over
$7 billion in infrastructure hazards in our communities. They designated, I believe, Cape Cod as the first in Massachusetts, the third in the nation in vulnerability to coastal issues that are coming. It's not like they're not going to stop. This is actually here. So what should people look for in this report, and maybe highlight one or two areas for the layperson? Like, I'm not a scientist and I'm not a planner, but I kind of want to be educated on what my community is facing.
Right. So I think in terms of actions, if that's what you're asking about, again, for vulnerabilities, I think you're spot on. Again, these sort of issues of coastal resilience, so things like flooding and storm surge and erosion that are again really impacting the way we live and we relate to the coast, and more and more so on a daily basis. So recommendations we see that came out of this group, really I think there were 5 or 6, but I think you can put them into 3 categories. One, we're thinking proactively about regulatory changes. What do we do with development that's in the floodplain right now in terms of making that more resilient, and how do we look forward to the future to sort of think about what additional development may or may not be appropriate to put in that floodplain. So sort of regulatory changes, kind of area-specific studies. We all know we have places with high levels of vulnerability right now, places like Sandy Neck and Millway that each sort of have their own very unique mix of challenges relative to coastal erosion and storm surge that are affecting individual property owners, affecting our recreational resources. Let's sort of figure out, how do we build consensus around solutions, or how do we get a better technical understanding of what infrastructure investments may be necessary to promote resilience. So those were kind of the place-based scenarios. And then the last one was really, again, thinking proactively about land acquisition. So Cape Cod is, we're sort of a giant peninsula out in the ocean, and we change and we evolve. I mean, we live on shifting sands that do not stay the same. And I think that's, where you really see the tension between coastal resiliency and development, is because we've sort of gotten in the way of that those natural processes. Things, again, like, as we build revetments and seawalls, it prevents, sand from going where it needs to go, as we develop next to our marshes, because they have beautiful views, those salt marshes can't migrate anymore. So where do we need to think about making strategic land acquisitions to allow those natural processes to happen in the future, and again, sort of reduce that tension between development and infrastructure and coastal changes. So those are some of the sort of big and exciting recommendations that came out of that.
And I had come in at the tail end of that one of the stakeholder meetings, and what had kind of piqued my interest was that people were ranking priorities. Does that report have some of that priority ranking?
Right, so those sort of 3 things that I just covered were things that were ranked the highest by individuals in the group in terms of actions that we needed to move forward. So we had a lot of other actions sort of under that, especially those related to response and how do we treat our emergency shelters and addressing low-lying infrastructure. I mean, there were, I would say, dozens of different actions, but sort of those 3 categories were ones that rose to the top and were prioritized by the group as a whole.
Right, so the report is out. You're going to send in the designation for certification. What's the next step after that?
So the next step, sort of 2 parts. The sort of the next step with the state is to start thinking again about how, out of these priorities, where are the next opportunities in terms of funding next steps. So working with staff and our community partners that have been involved to identify specific projects and go after funding for those projects so we can start to see change. On the local level, we also have been using this process to help complete our hazard mitigation planning process. So this is a sort of another planning requirement of the state, more focused on the area of mitigation. So mitigation and sort of the whole, when you think about how communities relate to natural disasters. It's, what do we do? What can we do on a sunny day to
Right.
make ourselves more, more resilient, reduce our vulnerability, keep our people safer, keep our infrastructure safer. So it sort of focuses around those planning activities, those what I like to call sunny day planning activities. So we have to have a plan for the state that actually gets certified by FEMA as well, the Federal Emergency Management Agency as well. So we're going to use all this great community input we got from the MVP process to sort of wrap up that plan as well. So you'll probably see me back here talking about hazard mitigation planning in the next few days. But those are the two next big
Right.
steps. Again, sort of implementation, doing, let's figure out how do we take this vulnerability and turn it into opportunity.
Right.
We're again, like you said, sort of ground zero for these challenges relative to climate and resiliency. How do we become leaders in the field in terms of responding to this?
Fantastic stuff. Thanks,
Yeah.
Elizabeth.
Thanks, Paula.
Now let's take a look at this week's community calendar. Unity Day will take place this Friday, August 2nd on the Hyannis Village Green from 4 to 7 p.m. We'll hear more about it tomorrow from Chief of Police Matthew Sonnabend, so save the date and tune in. Comments, suggestions, accolades? Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, or send us an email. Channel 18 works for you. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Beal.